What's up guys, it's Movie Buff Beth of the Movie Buff Pains, and I'm here again with another video. Today I'm going to talk about everything that I watched in the month of July. In the month of July I watched 43 movies, so did pretty well. Didn't really watch any TV shows, so I won't have much to talk about in that regard this month, but I will talk about everything I watched. I'll give you a rating out of 5 stars and whether or not I recommend it to you. And as always, at the end of the video I will talk about my favorite and least favorite watch, as well as my recommendation of the month. Thanks for tuning in guys, and we'll go ahead and get started. First thing I watched this month was Carl Reiner's Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. This is from 1982 and of course stars Steve Martin. Again, this is directed by Carl Reiner, who unfortunately just passed away. So I wanted to watch something of his that I had never seen before. I'm a huge Steve Martin fan. This one seemed like it would be a pretty easy watch. I did enjoy it, although I would say I didn't enjoy it as much as I expected to, just it being directed by Carl Reiner and starring the great Steve Martin. This is actually a spoof film making fun of 1940s noir films. And it actually has a lot of clips from actual noir films in it, and it's kind of funny. They cut Steve Martin into different scenes and he's kind of like going back and forth with actual footage from films. So that part was pretty funny, but overall it was not as good as I was expecting it to be. However, on future watches, you know, going in without any expectations, knowing what I'm getting into, I may enjoy it more. But based on my first watch, I would give it a 3 out of 5, and I'd recommend it if you're a fan of Carl Reiner or Steve Martin. Now, don't ask me why, but I was suddenly in the mood to watch some Final Destination movies. I've watched the first 3 with Andrew, which are easily the best of the series. I love the third one the most, I think. I love the roller coaster. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It's just a really fun horror film. However, he had never seen the 4th or the 5th film, so we decided to just dive in there. So first one we watched was The Final Destination. This one came out in 2009. After watching it, I definitely could safely say that this is probably the worst of the series. You know, all of these movies just have really over-the-top, ridiculous kills and gore. And they're fun for that reason. It's fun to see, you know, how death is coming after all of the characters and what ridiculous way they're going to die next. However, this one just not anywhere near as entertaining as some of the other films, which, you know, that's really what I'm looking for in these movies, is pure entertainment. I mean, none of them are great cinematic masterpieces, but this one's probably the least entertaining of the series. I'd probably give it a 2.5 out of 5. But yeah, it's still worth a watch if you're a fan of the series. And then after that, we watched 2011's Final Destination 5. So funny enough, the 4th film was called The Final Destination, and then they were like, just kidding, here's the 5th film. And I'm actually kind of glad that they did that, because this one was a welcome return to the great corniness and gore of the original 3. This one, of course, is ridiculous and crazy and over the top, but it was a lot of fun and some really fun kills. I'd probably give this one a 3 out of 5. And again, I'd recommend it if you're a fan of the series. The next film we watched is another rewatch, one that I love to watch around the 3rd or 4th of July every year, and that is The Return of the Living Dead. This movie came out in 1985, and it's an absolute horror comedy classic, probably one of the best horror comedies, because it has a really good balance of humor as well as horror. You know, neither one of the genres really overtake the other, and I feel like it actually is genuinely scary and genuinely creepy, which a lot of horror comedies really aren't. They play more on the comedy and the humor than the horror, and I don't like that as much. However, this movie is the perfect mix. Really awesome gore, some of the best zombie effects I've ever seen, and again, some really great laugh out loud moments. Just an overall great film. If you have never seen it for some reason, definitely check it out. This is a 4.5 out of 5 film for me. One weekend in July, I actually drove up and visited my parents to help them out around the house, and the movie that we decided to watch together there was Terminator Dark Fate. This was another rewatch for me. I saw it in theaters, didn't really have like a super huge desire to go back and revisit it when I first bought it. However, I did enjoy revisiting it. Compared to some of the other sequels, I think that this one's pretty good. Definitely nowhere near as good as the first 2, but I do enjoy this one. I really like Mackenzie Davis in the role, and it was really fun seeing Sarah Connor's return to the series. You know, Linda Hamilton, she's a total badass. My biggest flaw with the film was probably the new Terminator. He didn't do it for me. He wasn't very believable in the role. But overall, this is an enjoyable entry in the series. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. And I'd recommend it if you'd like to see somewhat of a return to form for the Terminator series. I've mentioned this in other videos, but I recently got into the podcast Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Again, I drove up to see my family, so I had several hours of just driving by myself, and I needed something to entertain me, and so I turned to podcasts. I often don't have time to listen to them, although I have taken to listening to them at work occasionally. But this is a really great podcast that I recommend you guys check out if you just want to hear him talk to various celebrities and kind of deep dive into their careers and their lives. And it's just a really interesting podcast to listen to. But yeah, I've kind of realized how great Dax Shepard is and how much of a gem he is. And I've wanted to go back and watch some of his films. He's actually directed a couple films, one of them being Chips, which I enjoy probably more than most people, and the other one I had never seen, but I did own, and that is Hit and Run. This one came out in 2012, stars Dax Shepard, Kristen Bell. You also have Kristen Chenoweth, Tom Arnold, really great cast, and I enjoyed this film quite a bit, a lot more than I expected to. I have never really heard that many people talk about this film. However, it was really fun, definitely very Dax Shepard. Once you get to know him, you can kind of see what his personality is like, and you can see that this is the type of film that, he was meant to make. It's kind of a romance film mixed with like a car chase movie, which I think is really cool. And it was fun seeing him play with his wife in this movie, Kristen Bell. But yeah, actually a really enjoyable film that I could definitely see myself revisiting. I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. And if that plot sounds interesting to you, romance mixed with a car chase action film, definitely check it out. And then kind of going with that same theme, I was thinking about how much I love Kristen Bell, and I wanted to revisit one of my favorites starring her, and this is the 2016 film Bad Moms. I will admit, when I saw the trailers for this, I was like, that looks quite dumb. But I was pleasantly surprised. I was happy to be wrong with this one. You have a great cast here. Again, you have Kristen Bell, Mila Kunis, Katherine Hahn. You also have some supporting characters like Jada Pinkett Smith and Christina Applegate. So, how can you go wrong? And the sequel is really great too. Just a really fun comedy. I'd give this a 4 out of 5. Definitely check it out if you like this cast. And keeping with the Dax Shepard theme, sorry, these next few are going to be about Dax Shepard. But this next one is a pretty under the radar film. I had never even really heard of it before the podcast, and that's 2010's The Freebie. This stars Dax Shepard as well as Katie Aselton, who is married to Mark Duplass. But I watched this one on Amazon Prime, and after I watched it, I immediately had to pick it up. Unfortunately, it's only on DVD, but however, the way it's shot, DVD works okay for this film. It's a very low budget. Looks like it was pretty much shot on like a camcorder type film, but it really works for the story. These two have been married for a while, and they kind of throw around the idea of a freebie night or a hall pass, where they can go out and sleep with someone else other than their spouse. And that sounds like a good idea maybe on paper, but then, there's a lot of repercussions from that. And it was a really good film. I appreciated the chemistry between the two of them, and I enjoyed this film quite a bit. If you're into like low-key indie romance films, I definitely recommend this one. I would give this one a 4 out of 5. And we got another Dax Shepard film here. This is 2004's Without a Paddle. I'd heard about this film for many years, never saw it, and I didn't own it either, so I went ahead and picked it up. It also came with the sequel, but I don't know if I'll ever watch that one. This one, of course, stars Dax Shepard, Matthew Lillard, and Seth Green. They have great chemistry. I could actually believe them being friends. It was pretty fun to watch. Nothing great, kind of an adventure comedy. However, I did enjoy it. This one I would probably give a 3 out of 5. And someone who I absolutely love, I've talked about her on the channel several times, and that is Lake Bell. She was on Armchair Expert, and it made me want to go back and revisit this film because she mentioned it, and that is 2015's Man Up. Very underrated romance film. It stars Lake Bell and Simon Pegg, who just have some awesome chemistry. This movie, very underrated romance film. Basically, Simon Pegg is going on a blind date. He's meeting up with someone at the train station, and through a matter of circumstances, Lake Bell ends up being mistaken for this woman, and so Simon Pegg goes on the date with her thinking that this is the woman that he was supposed to be meeting up with, and they kind of find out that they have some good chemistry together, and the night kind of plays out from that. And really cute and funny romantic comedy, one that I could definitely see myself going back to several times throughout the years, and I would easily give this one a 4.5 out of 5, and if you're a rom-com fan, you definitely need to watch this one. Next one I watched was a 2020 film on Hulu starring Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti, and that is Palm Springs. Loved this movie, guys. This was awesome. You know, I know that 2020 films are kind of becoming few and far between, but VOD streaming services, they are the place to go. This film is a play on the Groundhog Day shtick, where they are stuck in a time loop. However, the twist is that they are stuck in it together, and they kind of have to figure out how to get out of it. They are two people that don't know each other very well. They know each other through mutual friends, and they don't like each other very much in the beginning. And you may be thinking, oh, well, I can guess how that's going to turn out. But believe me when I say that this movie has a lot to offer that I did not expect. It was very charming, very clever. There were a lot of really funny scenes, really creative way to take the time loop genre and twist it and make it something new and fresh and interesting. And I really loved this film. All I can say is check it out on Hulu. This is a 4.5 out of 5 for me on first watch, although I'm really itching to watch it again, and it may just be a 5 out of 5 film. So definitely check out Palm Springs. And then I checked out another streaming film. This one is on Netflix. It is the 2020 film The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I had been hearing some really good things about this movie, so I kind of went in with, medium to high expectations. I will say I was a little disappointed. It was kind of a basic action film, not a lot to offer. They're basically immortals. I believe it's based on like a comic series or graphic novel series, but they're immortals, and they've lived for many, many years, and it's kind of them and how they go through the world being immortals. Again, I didn't love this one. I probably see myself going back and revisiting it at some point. Probably give this between a 3 and a 3.5 out of 5. Next one I watched was 1999's Being John Malkovich. This is the Criterion Blu-ray. Just picked this one up last month. This is directed by Spike Jonze and written by Charlie Kaufman, and it stars John Cusack, Catherine Keener, and Cameron Diaz. Very enjoyable film, very out there film. Having just recently watched Adaptation, I kind of knew what I was in for. I'm always a big fan of Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman, and they're kind of off-kilter films that explore things that are not usually explored. This movie, basically, John Cusack is a lonely puppeteer, and he gets a job in an office where he finds a portal that goes into the mind and body of John Malkovich. And that's all I'll say about this one. It is wild and crazy and a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'd probably give this one a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. I enjoyed this one a lot. Another 2020 film I checked out on VOD was Relic. This one I had been hearing a lot of great things about, so I decided to check it out. Very good film. Not as good as some of the other recent psychological horror films that I've seen. I heard a lot of comparisons to the likes of The Lodge. However, this is a movie where I feel like you need to watch multiple times to kind of catch on to things that you may have missed the first time. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of things that you just need to sit down and really look for. And I do appreciate horror films that are like that. I like when they have a reason to watch them again, a lot of rewatchability. On first watch, I'd probably give this a 4 out of 5, but again, it's definitely one I need to revisit. Hopefully it will come out on physical media sometime soon. Next film I watched was 2005's The Puffy Chair. This is directed by the Duplass brothers, Mark and Jay. I love them. I think they're awesome. And this stars Katie Aselton as well as Mark Duplass. This one was a lot of fun, what can I say? I picked this one up at Dollar Tree, but it was very quirky, very fun, kind of a road film where you just examine the characters and their relationships to each other and these kind of awkward situations that they get put in and how they react to them. And it was just a lot of fun. Definitely one I would recommend if you're a fan of the Duplass brothers, or if you're a fan of just quirky indie comedies. This one I would give a 4 out of 5. I loved it. And then another 2020 film I checked out, and admittedly this one I was not really looking forward to. For one, it's a remake. For two, it's a musical. And it kind of just looked like a dumb Disney type movie that I was not that interested in. However, I'm glad that Andrew pushed me to watch it, and that is 2020's remake of Valley Girl. This stars Jessica Rothy, who was a star in Happy Death Day. She also had a part in La La Land. This movie absolutely floored me. It really surprised me how much I loved this film. It was so charming, so cute. I love the original film. I'll talk about that in a moment. But this one just takes the concept and the characters and some of the music from the original film and made it totally something new. And I appreciate when remakes aren't just a rehash or a scene for scene reshoot of the original film. I like when they take the concept and they make it something new and something fresh. And that's absolutely what this movie did. You know, it turned it into like a jukebox musical similar to Rock of Ages, where they're singing all these awesome 80s songs, and it was really cute. Again, just very charming. One that I could definitely see myself watching multiple times a year. Just a great feel-good film and a musical that I very much enjoyed. I give this one a 4 out of 5, and I definitely recommend you guys check this one out. And after watching that one, I had to go back and revisit the original film from 1983, Valley Girl, starring Nicolas Cage and Deborah Foreman. I think this movie is adorable, one of the best rom-coms of the era, has that great 80s aesthetic, a great soundtrack, and a really fun performance from both Deborah and Nick Cage. But yeah, just a really fun film. If you've never seen it before, definitely check it out. It is a romantic comedy classic. And that one is another 4 out of 5. Got another criterion here. We watched 1953's The War of the Worlds. I was really looking forward to this one. I love the story. I like the Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg film from '05. And so I had high expectations for this one. I will be the first to admit when I'm tired or not in the right frame of mind, I don't always enjoy films as much as I should. And I think I was a little tired when I watched this one. So I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. However, I can see how it was very much ahead of its time and very influential to the sci-fi genre, and it was very well shot, great acting, great directing, definitely one that I need to go back and watch again. On first watch, I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5, and if you guys are fans of the story or sci-fi or films from the 50s, definitely check this out. Next one I watched is a film from 1988. This was recently released by Arrow Video, and that is Dream Demon. This is actually a British film, kind of a ripoff of A Nightmare on Elm Street. However, I feel like this one kind of had enough merits of its own for it to stand on its own, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Really creepy, some great dream sequences, just a really creepy film, and Timothy Spall plays a very scary villain in this movie, but I definitely recommend checking this one out if you are a fan of 80s horror films, and I give this one a 4 out of 5. Then we got a rewatch here. This is one that Andrew had never seen that I thought he would enjoy, and that is Cujo. This one came out in 1983. It's based on the Stephen King classic. I really enjoy this movie. It's very claustrophobic, plays on the psychological fear of being trapped, and Cujo is just a really creepy villain. A really fun movie that I would give a 4 out of 5. And if you're a fan of Stephen King and you haven't seen this one, I definitely recommend it. Then I have a couple of Netflix watches to talk about. First one is the 2020 film Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. I had to look down to see what that movie was called. It's a very long title. Either way, this film stars Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, and for that reason alone, it's very enjoyable. Two of my favorite comedic actors, and please remember that Rachel McAdams, although she's in a lot of great dramas, a lot of romance films, she is #1 a comedy actress. You got The Hot Chick, Mean Girls, Game Night. I mean, she's just a hilarious actor, and I think a lot of people forget that.
You're like really pretty. Thank you. So you agree? What? You think you're really pretty?
This movie follows a duo that are trying to get to the top of Eurovision, which we found out is an actual competition that I'd never heard of. This was a very fun film, nothing to take too seriously. You could tell they had a lot of fun filming this. There were a lot of fun songs, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'd probably give this one a 3.5 out of 5. And then the next one I watched was actually a stand-up special by Hannah Gatsby. It's her special, Douglas. I really like her style of humor. She's very vulnerable and willing to share, tidbits from her life that are relatable and funny. And this one was no exception. Another really great stand-up special from her. Not as good as her first one, however, I did enjoy it, and I'd give this a 4 out of 5. Next, I finally watched my first Bruce Lee film from this awesome Bruce Lee set from Criterion. I actually pulled out my Shout Select release so I could show you the individual title, and that is The Way of the Dragon. This one came out in 1972, and again, this is my first Bruce Lee watch, so I was very excited to check it out. And I can definitely say this one did not disappoint. I've heard that this one is kind of a little bit more lighthearted than some of his other films. However, I kind of appreciated that with it being my first Bruce Lee watch. It was very fun. He directed it, and you also got Chuck Norris. I mean, this one was just a heck of a lot of fun. Some really cool fighting, great martial arts. I'd give this one a 4 out of 5. Really looking forward to checking out more Bruce Lee. And then we have another Criterion here. This is 1955's The Night of the Hunter, starring Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters. This is a very good film. I'd heard many good things about this before watching it. I liked that it was a mix of noir with like a psychological thriller and some horror elements. I could definitely see how controversial this film probably was when it came out back in the 50s. Just the topic and the subject matter was probably very controversial, and I can definitely appreciate that. And Robert Mitchum was very creepy in this role. I was really surprised to see him being just so absolutely terrifying. But yeah, enjoyed this film quite a bit. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. And then continuing with the Criterion theme, I finally checked out 1966's Blow Up. This is one I'd heard many things about, one that everyone says you have to check out. I really liked this movie. It had a very deliberate, slow pace that just kept you engaged. I don't think a movie being slow means that it's boring, and this was like the perfect example of that. And that slow, deliberate pace is what, kept reeling you in and kept you engaged in the story. But yeah, this is a really great film. Some great cinematography, great performances. One that I definitely need to watch again, and I would give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Next one I watched was 1974's The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. This is a new release from Synapse, a new 4K transfer, and it looks fantastic. This is a very underrated zombie film, one that I feel like does not get enough credit. It's a slow burn, but it's very creepy and very eerie. I feel like it's one of the more realistic takes on how like a zombie apocalypse could start, and for that reason I find it really creepy. But I enjoy this film quite a lot. One of my favorite horror films in general. I love 70s horror. And this one I would give a 4.5 out of 5. And if you get the chance to pick up this release from Synapse, definitely do so. Next one I watched was 2005's Venom. This was a film that I had never really heard of. I don't remember it coming out. But a lot of people have said that it's an underrated horror flick from the era. And I would definitely agree with that. It has that cool, like swamp type horror feel to it. And I very much enjoyed it. Definitely could fit in like the same vein as like Scream or the House of Wax remake, which are two that I absolutely love. And yeah, very underrated like teen horror film. I would give this one a 3.5 out of 5. Next one I watched was 2001's The Piano Teacher. This is one that will be on my mind for a while. This stars Isabelle Huppert, who I think is a fantastic actress. Everything I've seen her in, I've just been blown away by her performance. And this is directed by, and I apologize for the pronunciation, Michael Haneke, who also directed Funny Games, which I really loved. And this film, just very jarring to watch, a kind of emotionally draining as well. This is a very bleak film. It follows a piano teacher who is very sexually repressed, kind of masochistic, and she meets a young student who is romantically interested in her, and they kind of begin a very unhealthy relationship, and it just examines that. On paper, I know it doesn't sound terribly interesting. However, I really love these films that examine characters, especially characters that are very flawed, that have problems and issues that they're working through, and this is a very good film, and I look forward to checking out more from Michael Haneke. Please let me know how you actually pronounce that, because I'm probably saying it wrong. But I very much enjoyed this film. Probably wouldn't recommend it unless you've seen some of his other films, but I would give this one a 4.5 out of 5. And wow, really shifting gears here. That one I watched by myself, and then Andrew got home from work, and so we threw on an animated film, and that's 2020's Trolls World Tour. I'll just admit it. I love these Trolls movies. They are so fun and so cute. Great music, great performances. You got Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake in the lead roles. They're great singers. Just a lot of fun. Colorful, fun movies. That's all these really are. And this one was just as fun as the first one. I give this one a 4 out of 5. One of my favorite films of all time. I was happy to revisit it. I wanted to show it to Andrew, and that is 1981's Blowout, directed by Brian De Palma, starring Nancy Allen and John Travolta. I love this film. This is another one that's very deliberately paced, to the point that you're just really drawn into the story. You also have John Lithgow, who's super creepy in this movie. He is a great villainous actor. I think he's very underrated as well. But again, you're just so drawn into this deliberate, slow pace of this film that it's extremely engaging and extremely interesting. John Travolta is a sound designer. He goes to the park to record some sounds for his movies, and he happens to record an accident, or so he thinks it is a car accident. And it turns out that there may be kind of a murder plot, and so he kind of goes behind the scenes to solve this mystery, and it's a very, very great film. I love Brian De Palma, and I think John Travolta in this era was just at the top of his game, and this is an easy 5 out of 5 film for me, and if you've never seen it before, I highly recommend it. Next film is 1938's Holiday, directed by George Cukor, who would later go on to work with this ensemble cast in The Philadelphia Story. This stars Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. This is a really cute film. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Some great chemistry between the two of them. I feel like the pacing was a little off for me. I feel like the first and second act were a little drawn out compared to the third. But that could just be, a product of the time. I mean, it's a film from the 30s, definitely differently paced than what we see nowadays. But yeah, I would definitely give this film a 3.5 out of 5, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. This is a new Paramount Presents release, and I was really surprised I had never seen it before, and that is 1990's Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, as well as Whoopi Goldberg, in what may be my favorite performance from her.
Molly, you in danger, girl.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It was really cute, some great chemistry between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. And Patrick Swayze, I mean, my goodness, he was so very attractive back then. But either way, I enjoyed this film quite a bit, and I appreciated that there was kind of like a crime thriller element to it, mixed with a romance. And again, I really loved Whoopi Goldberg's performance in this. This I would give a 4 out of 5. And the transfer looked great. Next, another first time watch, and that is 2001's 13 Ghosts. This is based on a William Castle film. I had never seen it before. I know a lot of people kind of grew up with this one. It stars Matthew Lillard. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was very anxiety inducing. There were just like flashes of creepy ghost images throughout the film. You really couldn't relax once they get to the house. You're just on edge the whole time. And the design of the ghost is really creepy. The things of nightmares in this movie. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. And then I have another horror film from the early 2000s, and that is Stay Alive from 2006. I had never heard of this film before, but a few people on Instagram were talking about it, saying how it's a super underrated horror flick and how it needs a Blu-ray release. And I happened to find it for really cheap on DVD, so I went ahead and picked it up. Really cool film, a really cool concept. Where, once you play a video game, you basically go and die in the way that you die in the video game. And it played out really interestingly, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Definitely an underrated horror flick from this era, and I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. Next, we have 1996's The Day Trippers, directed by Greg Mottola. This was recommended to me by a friend on Instagram. I put out a question out there asking what are some of the underrated or underseen films in the Criterion Collection that you recommend, and this was one that was recommended to me, and so thank you so much for recommending it to me. I absolutely loved this movie. This is directed by Greg Mottola, who later went on to direct Superbad, which is an awesome film. But I really liked this movie. It takes place over one day. I like films that, just take place over like a 24-hour period. A daughter goes home to her family, and she suspects that her husband has been cheating on her. And so the family kind of takes it upon themselves to go out and solve this mystery for her and figure out what's going on with that. And it was really, really entertaining. Great, like, quirky film. I love movies about dysfunctional families, and there's definitely one here. My favorite character was probably the dad, and if you guys have seen the film, you probably know why. But yeah, just a really fun film. Great chemistry between the family members, and I enjoyed this one a lot. I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Next, I watched another 2020 film on Hulu, and that is Good Boy, starring the great and underrated Judy Greer. Judy Greer is kind of a lonely person who is kind of giving up on finding a relationship, so she decides to adopt a dog who ends up being a killer. Yeah, kind of a silly concept, but actually a really fun movie, and it benefits it that it has someone like Judy Greer at the helm, because, you know, she has the ability to really carry a film, and she's really charming and fun to watch, so I think she definitely elevated the movie. But yeah, fun concept, enjoyable horror comedy. I would give this one a 4 out of 5. Next, I finally knocked one off my watch list that I've been wanting to see for a long time, and that's 1985's Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters, directed by Paul Schrader. This was a beautiful film, a beautiful portrait of a life, and I really liked how Paul Schrader kind of took the concept of a biopic and mixed it with fantasy. It's about a very famous author from Japan named Mishima, and it goes through his life, but also goes through some of his novels and places events in his life next to these novels that he's written, and he kind of compares them and puts them together. And I really like the way that this film was shot. There's some beautiful cinematography, and again, I really like the integration of fantasy with reality. I've really loved everything I've seen from Paul Schrader, but I think that this may just be his best film. It was absolutely beautiful, and I'm kind of at a loss for words to even talk about it, as you can probably tell. It left me speechless. It truly did. This is an easy 5 out of 5 film for me. I loved Mishima. And then going from a 5 out of 5 film to a not 5 out of 5 film, and that is 2009's Malibu Shark Attack. This one I actually got at Dollar Tree in this Mega Shark 8 movie collection. So yeah, less than $1 for this film. But I will admit it was pretty enjoyable as far as shark movies go. You know, obviously there's terrible acting, characters that you don't really care for too much. It kind of drags on at certain points. However, it was entertaining for the most part. I did like that it wasn't about like a great white shark. It was about a goblin shark. So that was kind of a nice twist on the story. However, you know, this is just another run-of-the-mill dumb sci-fi shark movie that I would probably give a 2.5 out of 5, solely because it was pretty entertaining. Next we have a 1959 film called Good Morning. This is the Criterion edition. This is directed by Yasuhiro Ozu. Sorry if I said that wrong, but I've been very interested into diving into his filmography, and I thought that this one kind of seemed like the most accessible. A lot of his films are more dramatic. This one's a lot more lighthearted. This was a really cute film. It follows two young boys who are frustrated that their family doesn't own a television set, so they decide to be silent and not talk to anyone until that happens, until they get their TV. But yeah, it was a very cute, charming film. I am definitely interested in seeing more from Ozu, especially after enjoying this film so much. I'll probably watch Late Spring next, but this one I'd probably give a 4.5 out of 5. Next we watched 2005's Wedding Crashers. This is a comedy classic at this point. Another one that Rachel McAdams is great in. She is a great comedy star. I don't like these multi-sets, but yeah, that's the way I own it. Andrew had never seen it before, so I was like, you definitely need to watch Wedding Crashers. It's an awesome, fun movie with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn and young Bradley Cooper, but definitely a 4 out of 5 comedy, and easily a comedy classic now. It's 15 years old, if you can believe it or not. Next, I watched 1973's Coffee, starring the awesome Pam Grier. This is a great B movie. I'm a big fan of Pam Grier, especially since I watched Jackie Brown recently, and having not seen Coffee or Foxy Brown, I knew I needed to fix that, and so I picked this one up in the most recent Arrow sale, and I was not disappointed. A very fun film. Give this a 3.5 out of 5, and if you're a blaxploitation or exploitation film fan, definitely check this one out. And last thing I watched in the month of July was 1942's To Be or Not to Be. This was a very interesting film that examined World War II and kind of what the world was going through at the time, and kind of put a comedic spin on it. This is my first film from Ernest Lubitsch. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But I definitely enjoyed it. I would give this one a 4 out of 5. One of the all-time comedy greats for sure. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. I'm realizing a few back I forgot to mention that I watched The Rental, the 2020 film directed by Dave Franco. I'll go ahead and link my review up above. I won't say much about it here other than I really enjoyed it. A great thriller, 4.5 out of 5 for me. I loved it quite a bit. And again, check out my review if you want to hear some more thoughts on that one. But real quick, I'm going to go over my favorite and least favorite watch of the month, as well as my recommendation of the month to you guys. So my least favorite of the month probably goes to Malibu Shark Attack, but that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I actually really enjoyed everything that I watched this month. Overall, really solid month. My favorite, that should come as no surprise, is Mishima, Life in 4 Chapters. If you guys have never seen this, definitely seek it out. It's a great film. And then my recommendations of the month, I'm going to give you 2. This kind of goes, you know, these recommendations go to 2020 because I feel like you guys just need to check out more 2020 films because we can't go to the theater. So I wanted to give my recommendations there. Besides The Rental, which I did a review on, I would definitely recommend checking out Palm Springs, as well as the remake of Valley Girl. Both very worthy 2020 films to check out. Just because we can't go to the theater doesn't mean that there aren't great films being released. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for the support. We've reached 500 subscribers on our channel. I can hardly believe it. I'm glad that there are people out there that are interested in hearing our thoughts and seeing our collection. It's really amazing and it's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much. We'll definitely be doing a giveaway soon if you guys are interested in that. Keep watching our videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Let us know what other videos you would like to see in the future. We're always willing to do request videos. We'll also be doing a Q&A pretty soon here, so if you want to start sending me those questions, definitely do so. You can find me on Instagram at MovieBuffBeth and send me your questions there or post them in the comments below. More on that in the future. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell to hear when we upload new videos, and we will see you next time.